Famous poet and novelist Sylvia Plath was born on October 27, 1932 in Jamaica Plains, Massachusetts, to Aurelia and Otto Plath. Her father died when she was young, leaving her mother to raise her and her brother, Warren, on their own. She wrote her first poem when she was 8 years old and continued to write extensive publications, which allowed her to win a scholarship to Smith College in 1950. There, she got an internship with the magazine Mademoiselle, in addition to publishing over 400 poems. On top of being a talented writer, Plath also suffered from severe depression, which was passed down from her father. Her first suicide attempt was believed to be when she was 10 years old, and her second one was when she was 19, after the internship ended.
She later moved to England and attended Cambridge University. In 1956, Plath met Ted Hughes, a fellow journalist. She was instantly attracted to him, and they married about 4 months later, in spite of warnings from her friends that he was manipulative and a womanizer. They then moved to Boston, where she taught at Smith College for a year before quitting. She also attended workshops with Robert Lowell, whose confessional style of poetry deeply influenced her. Plath won a Guggenheim Fellowship for her exceptional writing skill in 1959 and returned to England. In 1960, Plath published her first book, The Colossus. She gave birth to her first child, Frida, on April 1st of that same year. Unfortunately, after the birth of Plath's second child, she discovered that her husband was having an affair with another woman named Asia Wiville. They separated, and she fell into a state of depression. During this time, she wrote some of her most favorite publishings, including her novel, The Bell Jar, pseudonym Victoria Lucas. Left alone, broke, and trying to raise her 2 children by herself, Sylvia's depression reached an all-new height. In 1963, she committed suicide by overdosing on sleeping pills and sticking her head in the oven, which caused her to die of carbon monoxide with the kitchen gases.
In spite of her poems being different topics, they were mainly a representation of her emotions. She often wrote poems about a father or husband figure, death, and motherhood. Most of her poems don't have rhythm or rhyme, and some of her poems are also contradictory. For example, in her poem Metaphors, she writes about the burdens of pregnancy and women in society. But in her poem Child, she is excited about the idea of her child experiencing life. Plath was mainly influenced by her life and emotions, but she also was moved by writers she met throughout her life, like Anne Sexton, Robert Lowell, and Ted Hughes. In addition, she was inspired by Emily Dickinson, Virginia Woolf, and James Joyce because of their emotion-filled poems.
Sylvia Plath published her first poem at the age of 8 in the Boston Herald's children's section. In 1947, she won the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards for her paintings. Later, after graduating from the Smith College with honors, she was given a Fulbright scholarship to the Newnham College in Cambridge. That same year, 1955, she was awarded with the Glasscock Prize. Over 20 years after her suicide, she won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry for her work, The Collected Poems.
Mirrors. I am silver and exact. I have no preconceptions. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately, just as it is, unmisted by love or dislike. I am not cruel, only truthful. The eye of a little god, four-cornered. Most of the time I meditate on the opposite wall. It is pink with speckles. I have looked at it so long, I think it is part of my heart. But it flickers. Faces in darkness separate us over and over. Now I am a lake. A woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. Then she turns to those liars, the candles or the moon. I see her back, and reflect it faithfully. She rewards me with tears and an agitation of hands. I am important to her, She comes and goes. Each morning, it is her face that replaces the darkness. In me she has drowned a young girl, and in me an old woman rises towards her day after day, like a terrible fish. In this poem, Plath uses allegory, metaphor, personification, and imagery to describe the mirror. Even though the title of the poem clearly states the topic of the piece, the reader has to keep in mind what the subject is because it could be mistaken for a person. Plath personifies the mirror when she writes, unmisted by love or dislike. But when she writes, the eye of a little god, the mirror is meant to be her eye. She uses personification to compare the lights from the candle and the moon to the false compliments the woman has received. She also uses symbolism to represent the false compliments as different sources of light. The purpose of the mirror is to show the importance of honesty in a person's life.
Metaphors. I'm a riddle in 9 syllables, an elephant, a ponderous horse, a melon strolling on 2 tendrils. Oh, red fruit, ivory, fine timbers. This loaf's big with its yeasty rising. Money's new minted in this fat purse. I'm a means, a stage, a cow and calf. I've eaten a bag of green apples. Boarded the train, there's no getting off. The analysis of metaphor. Sylvia uses metaphor throughout the poem to describe herself during her pregnancy. She refers to herself as a melon that is walking on 2 tendrils and her stomach as a red fruit. She thinks of herself as basically just a carrier for her child, and that there is no turning back because she has boarded the train and there is no getting off until the end of her pregnancy.
The Colossus. I shall never get you put together entirely, pieced, glued, and properly jointed. Mule bray, pig grunt, and bawdy cackles proceed from your great lips. It's worse than a barnyard. Perhaps you consider yourself an oracle, mouthpiece of the dead, or of some god or other. 30 years now I have labored to dredge the slit from your throat. I am none the wiser. Scaling little ladders with glue pots and pails of Lysol, I crawl an ant in morning over the weedy acres of your brow to mend the immense skull plates and clear the bald, white tumuli of your eyes. A blue sky out of the Ortesia arches above us. O Father, all by yourself, you are pithy and historical as the Roman Forum. I open my lunch on a hill of black cypress. Your fluted bones and Achathin hair are withered in their old anarchy to the horizon line. It would take more than a lightning stroke to create such a ruin. Nights, I squat in the cornucopia of your left ear, out of the wind, counting the red stars and those of plum color. The sun rises under the pillar of your tongue. My hours are married to shadow. No longer do I listen for the scrape of a heel on the blank stones of the landing. Sylvia uses metaphor to describe her father. She claims that she can never put him back together, and that barnyard noises sound from his great lips. She has worked for 30 years to dredge the slit from his throat, but hasn't gained anything from her efforts. She sees herself as an ant trying to mend his head. He is old and alone. She no longer listens for him.
Child. Your clear eye is the one absolutely beautiful thing. I want to fill it with colors and ducks, the zoo of the new, whose names you meditate: April, snowdrop, Indian pipe, little, soft without wrinkle, full in which images should be grand and classical, not this troublous wringing of hands, this dark ceiling without a star. Analysis. Sylvia uses metaphors to tell about the innocence of her children, the childhood that she wants to give them, and the troublesome darkness that she wants to avoid. Referring to her children, she calls their eyes clear, innocent. She wants to fill their eyes with happy, childlike things, such as colors and ducks. She says that their images should be grand and classical, not dark and troubled.
You do not do any more black shoe, in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or at you. Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one great toe, big as a Frisco seal, and ahead in the freakish Atlantic, where it pours bean green over blue. In the waters off the beautiful Nauset, I used to pray to recover you. Ach, do. In the German tongue, in the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller, off wars, wars, wars. But the name of the town is common. My Polack friend says there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell you where you put your foot, your root. I never could talk to you. The tongue stuck in my jaw. It stuck in a barbed wire snare. Itch, 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 itch. I could hardly speak. I thought every German was you, and the language obscene. An engine, chuffing me off like a Jew. A Jew to Dachau, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna, are not very pure or true. With my gypsy ancestress, and my weird luck, and my Tarek pack, I may be a bit of a Jew. I have always been scared of you, with your Luftwaffe, your gobbledygoo, and your neat mustache, and your Aryan eye, bright blue. Panzerman, oh you. Not God, but a swastika, so black no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist, the boot in the face, the brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that, no not, any less the black man who bit my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20 I tried to die, and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. But they pulled me out of the sack, and they stuck me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you, a man in black with a Mein Kampf look, and a love of the rack and the screw. And I said I do. So Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off at the root. The voices just can't warm through. If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire who said he was you, and drank my blood for a year. 7 years, if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. There's a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They are dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, you bastard. I'm through. Sylvia uses Holocaust imagery to display the brutality of her emotions. She paints her father as a big, dark figure, big as a Frisco seal, and as a German, while she is hypothetically a Jew. She uses metaphors to say that he is more of a symbol of hatred and evil than good. Sylvia mentions that she tried to kill herself to get back to him, but was saved and put back together. After this, she chose to depict him as a man in black that looks like Hitler. She basically shook out and married a man like her father by saying, "I do, I do." In her mind, she has killed both her father and the man she's been modeling after him. As she says, "If I've killed one man, I've killed two," and said that he is the vampire who drank her blood for 7 years. She was married to Ted Hughes for about 7 years. The last line implies that she is through with her father, calling him out explicitly.